There's always been a lot of questions about how to do taxes as a barber. This video is here to kind of explain as much as I can explain. I'm not a financial advisor. I am not a tax prepper. You know, this is just what I've done in the past and what has worked for me. So I'm gonna break it down and kind of explain like deduction, taxable income, gross income, you know, kind of everything that a lot of us kind of get confused on. When I first started as a barber, it was pretty confusing. I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into. But at the end of the day, you are your own boss. Nobody pays you a W-2. This video is strictly gonna be about a 1099. So 1099 just means self-employed. I feel like majority of barbers are categorized as that. So let's get into the video and I'll show you guys a little example of how it works. Let's pretend as a barber you made, I'm gonna just do something simple, right? Let's pretend you made $50,000 for the year. Gross meaning without expenses. And out of that $50,000, you spent, let's say, $20,000. The term expenses or deductions simply means things that you paid for that benefit your business, right? With the 50 minus the 20K, obviously leaves us at 30K, then that equals to 30K. That 30K right there is actually going to be what's taxable. I believe it's 15.3% of that is what's taxed on average. So let's do the math. So 30,000 times 15.3% is 45, to be exact, $4,590, okay? So most likely if you're claiming 30K profit, that is going to be around how much you may be paying on taxes at the end of the year. So that is taxes. Okay, so now let's go over deduction. Okay. And excuse my handwriting, I don't have the best handwriting, but what is a deduction? Okay, so a deduction is pretty simple. All it means is you pay booth rent, right? So that includes booth rent for the whole entire year. So let's pretend you pay, let's just say 175, right? Times 52 weeks. That's gonna equal out to $9,100. Say after that you got tools, neck strips, you know, supplies, shampoo for your clients when you do shampoo services. It could be anything, clippers, blades, really whatever that relates to that business, okay? Now let me clear some things up too. A lot of people think, oh, well, I bought this hoodie, right? I bought this shirt, so I could write it off because I use it for work. Negative, right? If you're a barber and you just think you could buy clothes and categorize it under uniform, then you're wrong. You are wrong, because if you look at the tax code, and I'll bring it up right now. If you look up the tax code, it simply says it has to be distinguishable in a public area. So let's pretend I'm walking around and I have this shirt on. They're not gonna know, oh, he's a barber because he's wearing that shirt. Whereas if a nurse has some scrubs on or a doctor has some scrubs on, that's pretty distinguishable. I could go into an Albertsons and see this man or female in scrubs and I'll be like, oh, they're probably in the medical field. But if you do throw your logo on, or you throw your barber name or your Instagram, whatever the case may be, technically you're marketing, right? If you're out in public, you're marketing your company since you are an individual business as a 1099. And that could be categorized under marketing. So that could fall into deductions. So let's write down marketing. I'm gonna try to keep it basic. I don't wanna get too into detail because this kind of topic can go extremely into detail. You use your phone for your clients, so you could deduct your phone bill as well. It could be any booking apps that you guys may use, okay? So if you guys use Booksy, if you guys use Squire, anything that you pay for as a booking site, you could completely use that as a deduction. You just get your monthly payment, you multiply by the year, and that amount gives you your deduction. For example, I'm using two cameras right now. I'm using this camera and I'm using this camera. Plus I have these mics on. So this is how I do my marketing. This is how I post social media content. So all this is a deduction as well because I use it strictly for business, okay? I mean, meals, some people say meals. I really don't. As a 1099, it's kind of iffy because you're not discussing business. Yeah, you could be saying you're discussing business on your own, but it gets kind of wishy-washy. That's on your own discretion. The way I do it, you know, I'm an owner. I own multiple shops as well. So whenever I take my managers out to eat, we're strictly talking business and we're discussing the game plan for the following years. So yes, I deduct it as well as on my taxes, but that's a little different for me. So it's on your own discretion if you want to use it. If you guys go to hair shows or any barber competitions, okay? If you buy an entry ticket to a hair show, barber competition, if you buy anything that's related to that barber comp, even inside the comp, at that point, if you have the meals, you could deduct that as well. Let's say you traveled out of town, that could be a deduction as well, travel. Because you travel to a certain area to compete, okay? And then that leads into hotels and flights and all those things that got you to that one exact barber battle, okay? Remember, I am not a professional tax professional. Take this with a grain of salt and please talk to a professional. The amount of money it tax services, right? So we're talking tax services, and let's say you go to a CPA and you say, hey, look, I have all these expenses. This is how much money I made, whatever the case may be. Let's say they say, okay, cool, thanks. I'm gonna charge you $500. That $500 charge can be a write-off or a deduction, I should say, for that fiscal year. So if I'm doing my taxes in 2026 right now, I pay the fee. That 2026 charge is for the year 2026. Anything related to barbering is a deduction. As long as you could prove it, if you get audited or you get sent to court, whatever the case may be, if you could prove that it was for work, it's a deduction, right? So the $50,000 minus the $20K of deductions gives you the $30,000 profit. And then you're gonna get taxed on that $30,000, okay? So after you pay those taxes, the benefit, right? The major benefit of filing your taxes and paying it, who likes paying taxes? Nobody, right? But there is one major benefit, is proof of income. So let's go about that. Proof of income, POI, okay? So with proof of income, you wanna go buy a new car? Simple. You go to the dealership, you have a credit score, you show them, they're gonna ask you, what do you do for a job? You say, I'm a 1099 self-employed barber. It gets wishy-washy, and if you didn't file your taxes, they would have been like, hey, look, man, you have no way of proof of income, I'm sorry. I can't allow you to get this car. But if you do file your taxes and you have a good POI, it's great. Now you get to show that you make $30,000, and then whatever vehicle you qualify under that income and credit score, now you're golden. Same thing with the house and other expenses that you can't buy in whole, you have to use credit. So the biggest part, what you need is receipts, okay? You really need receipts, because let's say you get audited and they say, hey, well, you say you claim this much money on brand new cameras and stuff. Well, where's the receipts? Let me make sure you didn't lie about it. If you didn't have any receipts, then I'd really be careful. If it's your first time filing and you don't have any receipts, I would really be careful on how you claim deductions, because you don't want to get an audit and be screwed, and then you have interest and all these other fees, right? So be very detailed when it comes to your deductions, because like I said, you need to have all the proof and think worst case scenario. If you get into any audit or court date, you need to prove that all those expenses were legitimately for business. Another alternative from receipts, it's very simple. And what that is opening a separate account, right? So my biggest recommendation is if you have a personal checking account, right? I'll just say PC to make it simple. And then you have a business checking account. Your personal checking account, you could go buy Hulu, you could go buy your clothes, you could go buy whatever the case may be, right? But with your business checking account, okay, then that's what you use strictly for business. So any haircut money that you make, you deposit it in that. So I'll just put hair $signs. Any hair money you make, you deposit it into this, okay? Deposit. Again, sorry for my writing. I'm just writing fast to make it simple, but you understand what I'm saying. Anything that you buy related to business, you're gonna use it out of this business checking account. Why would you do that? Simple. So you could keep track of every expense, and if you get some sort of audit or whatever, you could simply go to your bank statements, say, hey, look, I bought this at Absolute Barber Supply. Perfect. It was for this clipper, whatever the case may be. Boom, now you have proof right there. On and on, okay? Travel, whatever the case may be. So that's one major way to separate your deductions and whatnot. If this is an industry that you really want to pursue for a good while, you have to do these steps. If you want to grow as fast as you possibly can, it's a must. It's a major must. Biggest thing is starting from this point right now. If it's your first time filing taxes, if it's you've never done this before, that's fine. We've all been there. Take the first step, file your taxes this way, and then come back, watch my future videos that I release about how to structure it with an LLC. There's an S Corp format, there's a C Corp format, there's a bunch of formats, right? If you do that, you'll set yourself up for success. Back then, when my CPA actually told me about it, I was kind of skeptical, but then I realized, you know what, I want to do this forever. I want to cut hair and do business side of barbering. You know, I want to elaborate in this as much as I can. So with that being said, I am going to do the steps that I need. Yeah, it takes money. It doesn't take that much money, right? But you got to invest in yourself. Always remember, you guys are your own boss. You guys are your own brand. You guys are your own business. So if you don't treat yourself like a business or a brand, how are you going to excel in life? How are you going to grow in this industry? You're not. I'm going to be brutally honest. You won't grow. You will not grow if you don't take these steps and take your career very serious. So this is my advice. This is my tips. You know, it's worked for me. Trust me, I've been able to grow exponentially because of all this structure that I've created. I really hope you guys like this video. I broke it down. If you guys want any more detail, you know, comment anything that you'd like to see. But I really hope this video helped you guys. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM, write it in the comments, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace, y'all.